Since uploading the video of my recent bikepacking overnighter, I've been getting quite a few questions about my setup. So in this video, I'll give a brief explanation of the bike, the bags, and what I pack in them. Alright, what's going on guys? Welcome to another video. I've been trying to get out for a ride to film some video for weeks now, but the weather has just been horrendous. So I thought, you know what, let's do a setup video. But before we go any further, if you haven't already, then do consider subscribing to the channel. We've got plenty of bikepacking related videos in the works, like guides, tips and tricks, gear reviews. And if you haven't seen it already, we also have a 93-part video series about our 11,000 kilometer tour of Australia. So if you're into bikepacking or bike touring, then I'm sure you'll find something that's at the very least useful. All right, the setup. So this is the exact setup that I used in the video that I'll link above. And I would probably call this my light touring setup. Probably wouldn't call it a bikepacking setup, at least not by my definitions, but that's the trendy term, so I guess we'll roll with it. So as you can see, it's sort of a neo-retro kind of vibe. There's a bit of a mix of the old and new happening, and it's basically the same as my full touring rig with a couple of changes. The first alteration from the touring rig is the water situation. So I've got a 1 litre bottle on each fork leg, and I've got a 1.5 litre Nalgene back here. I've also got a 2 litre bladder that comes with my water filter. So that gives me a total of 5.5 litres should I need it. The second change from the touring rig is that I changed the rack and panniers to a Caradice bagman support and a traditional Caradice style saddlebag. I've decided to use the optional support struts with the bagman. They're not really needed, but I like the added rigidity, and it's reassuring to have that extra support when the surface starts to get rough. Now, other than that, it's pretty much the same. All the bags from here forward haven't changed. So I think maybe we'll start with the back and work our way forwards. And I reckon I'll detach the bags so that we can take a better look at them. All right, the saddlebag. So this is a Bags by Bird Gold back, and it's sort of based on the old Caradice saddlebags, but with a few modern modifications. Things like nylon buckles and instead of leather straps, we've got webbing. And one of the main modifications they've done to this is a bit of internal stiffening so that you can use it on the handlebars easier without it dripping into the front wheel. So I do use this bag quite a lot on the handlebars when I'm on my mountain bike, but it does work equally well in the more traditional saddlebag usage. So anyway, let's open it up and take a look inside. Okay, so when you first open it, first thing you'll notice is this here. So this is a long flap design. So these studs you can actually undo if you don't drop it and increase the size of the flap so that you can strap more stuff underneath here and expand the capacity of the bag if you need to. I generally don't need to do that, but it's nice to have. So once we get inside, first thing you want to do is undo this strap here, which is just there to kind of hold everything in place. And then after that, we can undo this cord, let the skirt out, which just helps keep the weather out. So the last thing I pack away is always the tent, which means that it's always the first thing to come out. The order you pack your stuff in is super important. When you get to camp, you don't want to be fumbling around trying to find stuff. So I always pack the tent away last, and that way it's always the first thing my hands get to when I try to make camp for the night. So, tent. Next up, sleeping pad. Fans of the channel will know that I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with this mat. Next up, sleeping bag. This is just a simple, cheapo summer bag. Not crazy warm, but we're in the tropics right now, so it's all you need. Pillow, inflatable pillow. Power bank. Seems like a strange place to put the power bank, but the logic is that I charge everything overnight. So I put the tent up, plug my camera, plug my phone in, and all that kind of stuff at night. The appropriate cables will be in here as well. Power bank. And other than that, maybe just some warm socks, maybe some long johns, any clothes I need to sleep. And that's it. The saddlebag is basically the camping bag. This holds my tent, my sleep system, anything I need to actually camp. It's also got 2 side pockets. So this pocket would be the drive side pocket. So in this one, I keep the aforementioned water bladder, water filter, first aid kit, and my backup water purification tablets. The idea with that is this is the easiest pocket to access, so I've kept the stuff on this side that I need to access quickly, like the first aid kit. On the other side, basically this is just toiletries. I've got some bug spray, I've got some sunscreen. I would also have my toothbrush in here, a bit of soap, a bit of toilet paper. And that is it for the Bags by Bird Gold Bag. So up next is the frame bag, and I am a total convert to the large frame bag. It is so useful on any kind of trip. And even in my day-to-day life, it lives on the bike, super handy. So let's bring the camera in and take a closer look. Okay, so on a trip like this, the frame bag basically is tools and food. This can change. Sometimes I might want to throw something else in there that I need quick access to, which you'll see in a minute. But for the most part, tools, food. It has an internal divider. You might be able to just make out the stitching there. So there's a divider running right here. This section is tools, front section is food. So let's open it up and have a look. Okay, so I haven't got any food in here right now because I ate it all on the trip. What I do have at the minute is my head torch. That doesn't normally live in there. The head torch tends to migrate quite a lot. I haven't really found a perfect place for it, but I like having it close at hand because you never know when you're going to arrive to camp a bit late and it's going to be dark and you're going to need it to set up your tent and everything. So head torch and rain jacket, very important. Underneath the rain jacket, we have spare tube, pump, a bicycle multi-tool. This is a Blackburn switch, hex keys, chain breaker, stuff like that. And finally, a regular multi-tool. This is a Leatherman style multi-tool. And on a short overnighter like the one I just went on, that's basically all I take in terms of tools. I usually have a couple of tire levers as well in there, but they're with my other bike at the minute, so they ain't around. But I mean, that's it for that. Load up the front with food. It's pretty decent width to fit a tin of beans or something if you need to. Spaghetti obviously goes great, and the sort of freeze-dried meal that I used on the trip, obviously you could probably fit like 5 of those in there. So after the frame bag, I suppose next up would be the cockpit. But I don't want to go in too much detail with that here, as I'm planning on doing a dedicated video about my cockpit setup. So I'll just tell you that this is generally where I keep my snacks, my camera stuff, and my spork. So finally, that brings us up to the basket bag. The basket bag is an Alakazam basket bag by Wizardworks, and it has been fantastic. It's been completely waterproof. They don't advertise it as being waterproof. I guess maybe they say it's weather resistant, but I've stored electronics in here and all sorts, and I've had no issues with it whatsoever. It's super easy to remove with these 2 G buckles, which also keep it really locked into place. It does not move at all once you've got it secured. So we'll just remove it and we'll take a look. All right, so let's take a look inside the basket bag. Before we go any further, I'll just make a note. This is actually where I keep the tripod that I'm filming this on right now. I just kind of hook a couple of the legs under the flap here, And it seems to keep it in place just fine. I never had any issues with it bouncing out or coming detached or anything like that. The only thing is it makes it kind of awkward to access anything inside the bag because you always have to take the tripod off if you want to get inside the bag. So I'm gonna have to come up with another solution, but it works in a pinch. Okay, so the basket bag. Pull the flap up, and it's a simple roll top design. A couple of studs to hold the edges together, and you're in. So, whereas the rear bag is where I keep all my camping stuff, this front bag is where you would keep everything else. This is clothes, this is, you know, cooking gear. This is like everything else you need. But in my case, I'm filming. So this ends up carrying a lot of filming gear, and it doesn't really leave much room for any other necessities. So speaking of filming gear, first things first, drone remote. And then secondly, the drone. I'm trying to fly the drone a bit more. I've never really used it much in the past, but it does add a lot to the videos, so I'm making an effort to try and bring that with me when I can. And the drone I have wrapped up in just a simple flannel shirt. This is great to have for if it gets a bit chilly. Maybe I can wear it at night or at camp if it gets a bit cooler. Just some sort of extra layer. If it gets even more cold, maybe you want to bring a puffy, something like that. And I've got a dry bag. I stick the drone in this if it rains. Finally, I have my cooking pot. I'll do a video on this soon because this is an interesting little setup I've managed to put together. Also inside of here is my stove, the gas, you know, a cloth, lighter, stuff like that. And that's basically it. Because the overnighter I mentioned, again, link above, because it was so close to home, it was only about a 2-hour ride. So I didn't take a change of clothes, I didn't take anything like that. Because in the morning when I got up, all I needed to do was jump on the bike, ride 2 hours, and then jump in the shower and get dressed. So I went super minimal with all this stuff. Now, you guys at home might not be taking a drone, so if you needed to, you could definitely fit more stuff in here, especially if you took the drone out. You could easily fit another set of clothes, or some warmer layers, or stuff like that. But for a simple overnighter that's only a couple hours from home, that is all I take. So that's it, guys. Real simple. I hope you weren't expecting anything crazy in there because there's really not much to it. Shelter, food, cook pot, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I hope it was at least a bit useful. It's a bit of a quick and dirty one today, but you got to work with what you've got. I will be doing detailed reviews of all the bits of equipment in this video, so if there's anything in particular you want to see, make sure you leave a comment down below. All right, so get out there and do some bike packing, people. We'll see you next time.